Here we go. Okay. All right. Well, we did get into Yud Aleph already, but that's okay. We can start over from the beginning of Yud Aleph if nobody else remembers it. That's good enough reason for me.
Okay.
All right. So we'll start from Yud Aleph. That's 11 on page. Anybody?
52.
52. All right. 52 it is. See, everybody knows except me, because I don't have that version. All right. Here we go. V'amnam. However, since death has been declared and decreed upon man, as we've explained, turns out that because of this, the combined form of man as body and soul needs to be separated for a certain amount of time. And then after that time, it will return and be reconnected. But even during this time of separation, it would make sense and it would be appropriate for each of these two parts, the body and soul, to have an appropriate place to be, which is which is perfectly designed to accomplish whatever needs to be accomplished during this time of separation. So last time we spoke about how it seems from here that the resurrection will perhaps not all happen at the same time, because he's saying that every body and soul combo needs to have a certain amount of separation time based on the life it lived. So that would seem to imply that the resurrection is not all going to be at the same time, because some souls are going to need longer and some are going to need less. Or I guess some bodies, I should say, are going to need more time and some will need less time. So someone said, well, maybe it's just about from when they died until the time of the resurrection. And I said that just seems unlikely that the people who are who lived 5,000 years ago are in such a worse state than we are today that they need so much more time. That seems very illogical. So it would seem from here that every resurrection is going to happen in its own time. And it's not like it's all going to be just all at once, poof, everyone's coming back. It doesn't seem like that's the way it's going to work based on this.
Much more responsible way to do it.
Oh, yeah. And you got overpopulation problems,
Exactly.
crowding. Yeah, it'll be terrible. Okay.
Are you making fun of me?
Social distancing.
Social distancing. Ay.
But
It's okay. The diseases on those bodies will be long extinct.
But there's no statement like how long that, like it's is that a whole 1,000 years of all that happening? Or?
How long? It doesn't say here. It doesn't say here. Okay. So, the body needs to return back to its source, to its base. And it needs to have its combination separated. And its form needs to be lost, needs to disintegrate. And since man came from the dirt, that's where it will return. This is what Hashem said to man, to Adam, since you are dirt, you will return to the dirt. So the idea here is that in order for the body to be recreated, as we've learned, in order for it to be able to be brought back in a form that's possible to be purified by the soul to the level above where even Adam was when he was created, it needs to be returned to its most base particles. It needs to go back to the purest form at which it started in order to be recreated without bearing any of the tint of sin that was incorporated into it through Adam and then through subsequent sins during its lifetime of whoever the person was. So in order for all that to happen, it's got to go back to where it started. So that's why the body will return to, as Rabbi Slidis says, the body returns unto the dust, right? Because that's where it came from. In order to be able to be recreated, that's the process that it needs to undergo. Okay. Good?
Yep.
Okay. So, just one point over here that Reb Chaim brings. That is that not only does a person needs to be cleansed from sin, the person also needs to be cleansed from his or her connection to physicality. By our living in this world, inevitably, unless we're really saintly, we become connected to physicality. We want things that feel good in every way. And that connection is something that also has to be purified, because that is the opposite of what the body is for. The body is not for that, at least initially it wasn't intended for that. And therefore, in order for it to be recreated in its purest form, it's going to have to be cured from that as well. Because as we entrench ourselves in physicality and in feel-good stuff, we need to, we're kind of ruining our bodies by doing that. Not in a physical sense, but in a spiritual sense, we're ruining our bodies. So in order to remove that, we need to, again, be purified the same way that we're getting purified from sin, by having it removed completely and back down to its pre-formed state. The same will apply for the non-sins, but simple connection to physicality. Okay, so being connected to physicality isn't necessarily a sin, but it's something that is not good for the spiritual body and is going to have to be rectified before the bodies can be resurrected. Okay? Does that make sense?
Just the phrase you just said a moment ago, spiritual body.
Yes. I guess the better phrase would be a spirituality of the body. How's that? Okay. Okay, so he continues. Hanashama, however, the soul, hazaycha b'maaseh, which does merit through its actions here in this world. Hine ein lo elo letzapos. It just needs to wait. Ad she'asa b'guf ma shetzarach lasos, until whatever happens to the body happens. Tahainu, which is tocha v'havsa b'rishayna. Initially, it's the body becoming broken down and losing its form, and then v'hayishar ba'afar kol zman shetzarach, and then it has to stay in the ground for whatever duration is necessary, in order to accomplish all the things that we had mentioned earlier. Then then it needs to be rebuilt anew after that process is completed. Till it's ready for the neshama to go back into the body. So just like at the initial creation, the body was first created and then the soul was infused into that body, the same is going to happen the second time around. The body itself is going to have to be recreated, and then the soul will be able to be reinfused into this newly created body. So it's not all at once. It's the body is done first, and then the neshama is put into it, just like we find with the creation of Adam. So essentially, the process of creation of man is going to happen again. It's really a cycle, essentially.
This is Gilgulim. This is
No. This is the resurrection. This is Tchias HaMetzah. Yeah. So the way he's describing it is essentially the exact same process that Hashem did when he created man the first time. He's going to go through that same process again, gathering the dust, creating a brand new form out of just that, and instilling it with an neshama that's going to be extremely powerful, and the physicality of that body will be very thin, and will be overpowered by the spirituality, and we're going to be back to square one.
Solar powered. SOULAR. Solar powered.
Do you have a
Put
book
that
about
in your
that by
food
any
for
chance?
thought.
I did.
We'll have to write
That's an
that
older
down.
article from like 8 years ago.
Okay.
That I did.
So I have two questions.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So
No, that's not really how you spell solar. Go ahead.
All right. It's not.
people who have been cremated,
Yes.
this process does not happen for them, correct?
I'm not going to answer that
Okay,
Why?
that's fine.
because I don't know.
Oh.
Because
Not so simple.
yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. So Crap. What was the second question? Hold on.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
We'd have to assume
can't
there's
do
a
the other
difference between
question.
willfully cremated and
Well.
Again,
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer
right,
that.
you're not even
Yeah,
gonna-
and
I'm not
then
answering
yeah,
that.
okay. So, is there like, I keep thinking of like the kind of mass grave situations.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily matter where they're laying, or does it? Okay,
For certain things it does, but not for this.
not for this. Okay. Because I know there's like a thing about.
Rolling to Eretz Yisrael.
There's that, yes,
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah.
So basically, it's the decomposition, and then the after everything is completed, it's decomposing, so that then everything will be reconstituted anew
Yep.
from the earth.
So it's really a do-over.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Can you find out for me? I'm curious.
Maybe.
That's kind of exciting. I mean, like you have
First
another
time you
chance.
ever said no to answering a question, Mike.
I didn't say no.
Okay.
Did I say no? Let me check the
No.
video.
So I'm not
I didn't say
talking
no.
about necessarily like situation, like if someone chose to do that. That was in their will. That's how they wanted their remains to be taken care of.
I will not answer the question, but I will tell you this.
Fine.
There is an attorney in Chicago
Yes.
who won a legal battle, a very monumental legal battle, in which he argued and won that burial is nature's form of cremation.
Okay.
And people who put cremation on their will can be buried.
Once they're cremated.
No.
No. Okay.
Burial is
Uh-huh.
nature's form of cremation.
Gotcha.
And therefore, if somebody puts in their will that they want to be cremated, they can be buried, and that will be a fulfillment of their will.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just putting it out there.
Not this situation.
Just putting it
Okay.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing it was an article in the newspaper in Chicago, actually, in the Chicago Tribune.
Paul,
And they
That's
put it up
more
in
like-
Shul where the guy
Yeah,
was an
probably.
attorney.
Define your terms, right? Because
I
what
like
is cremation?
that.
Right, so that was a big deal. Anyway, all right, moving on. Before Jody remembers her second question. Quick.
No, I had the second
Oh.
question. It was about
Oh.
mass graves.
Oh, okay, fine.
I'm done.
All right. Oh, well. Moving on. The Amnam. Tzarech sheyiyeh lamakom ben kach uben kach. Now, the soul, the neshama, needs a place to be in the interim. So the body is sitting in the ground. It's going through this process of decomposition, and then it's going to be recreated. But where is the soul all this time? What's it doing? So he says there has to be a place for it. So because of this, Hashem prepared the world of the souls. Shebai tikonesna hanashamas hazaychos, that into this world will enter all of the souls hazaychos that merit going to this place. Achrei tzeitzon mehaguf, after they leave the body, v'teshevna sham b'makam menucha, and they will rest there in a restful place. That's where they will stay. Okay? So basically, there's this stopover. There's this holding cell where the neshamas will be, and they will exist, and they will be in a restful state. Kol zman his galgel al guf hanyanam ha'ru'im his galgel love, as long as it takes the body to go through the processes that it needs to go through. Okay? So there's this world of souls. Okay? V'hine, kol zman ahu, so that all of this time, tishkaina hanashama sahem b'ma'alo v'tainu, the souls will reside in a lofty state and in a state of pleasure. Which will be similar to, not the same, but similar to the future of where all of the souls will be in the world to come. So it's not quite at the level of the world to come, but it is similar to that level. Because even their level in the world of souls will certainly be based on the actions that they did in this world, and based on how much they accomplished in this world, that will be their station in the world of souls. So just like we understand that in the world to come, it's completely based on how much we accomplished in our lifetimes, and the same is true of the world of souls, that a person's soul will be placed in a level of this world of souls that will be appropriate for what it accomplished during its lifetime.
But this is not a Olam Haba.
This is not Olam Haba, correct. This is before Olam Haba. This Olam Haba is after the resurrection. He's talking about until the resurrection. Where do all those neshamas go?
And there's various tiers.
And everyone's got their own level.
Right.
Everybody's going to be at a different level, and that's going to be based on their lifetimes. That's how
So you're
it's
basically
decided.
you're sitting in this level and waiting with no opportunity at that point to move up or down.
Okay, that's a good question. Is there opportunity for growth at that point? So, there is, to some extent, when people here on earth do things as a merit for a soul,
Oh, wow.
that can affect the soul and
Pressure's
give it
on.
some growth.
Yeah.
So saying a Kaddish, learning Mishnayos, giving tzedakah, all these things.
Right.
If you do it in memory of someone, giving a donation. If
That's
you do it in
where it
memory of
affects.
someone, it can affect their soul. That's the point of it.
That's why we say Le'ilu Nishmas.
Yeah.
Should be an aliyah for the neshama.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
But that's only in that interim,
I thought that was just for us to feel.
That's just in that interim
There you go,
state.
you get a
Yes, it
little bit.
seems.
So
when,
whatever that means, I don't know.
Will that accomplish for Olam Haba as well? So, here's the thing. I'm kind of putting pieces together myself. This is not something I've seen, but the way I understand it, the reason, or I shouldn't say the reason, the process through which a neshama is able to get to a higher level because of things that people down here do, is simply that when I cause someone to do something, if they're doing something good, I get credit because I caused it. If they're doing something bad, I get credit because I caused it. So when a boy becomes a bar mitzvah, the father says a bracha, Baruch Shabbatarani Me'an Shishal Hazeh, that I am thanking Hashem for the fact that I'm off the hook now, because until now, everything that he did wrong was my responsibility because I caused it. Now that he is a free-thinking adult, as I roll my eyes, now he's his own responsibility, and I don't have that responsibility anymore. But the concept is, as the Gemara says, Gadol ma'asa yosem min aisa. Greater is the one who causes than the one who does. So if I go out and I get 100 people to donate to a particular cause, I actually get more credit than all the people who donated, even though I didn't give a penny, because I'm the cause, and the cause is greater than the one who actually does the action. So, if I raise a child who does mitzvos, so I have a certain part in those mitzvos, because I am ultimately the cause for why they happen. Now, does that child have free will? Of course they do. Are they going to get the bulk of the merit? Of course they will. But I still get some credit for the fact that I caused that process to happen by having the child, by raising the child, by training the child, by giving them example, etc. So being a cause for all of that is going to be credited to me. And all the other people and factors and everything else, it's all taken into account. So when you have someone who says Kaddish, for example, for a loved one, so that Kaddish is Kiddush Hashem. The idea of Kaddish is that everyone says Yehei Shmei Rabbah, and the person saying the Kaddish is the cause of everybody saying Yehei Shmei Rabbah. And Yehei Shmei Rabbah is a public declaration of Hashem's oneness and Hashem's greatness, and that is a form of Kiddush Hashem, the sanctification of Hashem in the greatest form. So when someone says Kaddish, they're causing this great public sanctification of Hashem's name. So, when somebody passes away, but they've raised a child who is now going to say Kaddish for them, so that means that they, the deceased, are really the cause for this public sanctification of Hashem's name. So that is the source of their growth. If I raise a child who, after my passing, gives tzedakah and my merits, I am the cause of that to an extent, and that's the cause of my growth. Etc., etc., etc. So, if that's the understanding, and that's accurate, which again, I don't know that it is, but this is how I understand it, then it wouldn't stop at the world of the souls. It would continue for Olam Haba as well. If that's how it works.
But that's only like that whole idea with the saying Kaddish and stuff. And I know we've talked about this before. Is only if you have boys saying it for you?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, can we do anything as women to?
Well, typically, what people do, even if they're men, if they don't know for certain that they'll be able to say every Kaddish, they hire somebody. You go to a yeshiva where there's a Rebbe who's going to be there every single day, no matter what, and he says Kaddish. So you pay him for the year to say Kaddish 3 to 4 times, 10 times, whatever, a day, and this way you've got it taken care of. Now, it is more powerful for the person himself to do it rather than having someone else do it. That's always true with any mitzvah. It's always more impactful if you do it yourself rather than have someone else do it for you. But if you're unable or uncertain, then the fact that you're giving tzedakah and supporting a Torah scholar at the same time is an additional merit, which offsets the fact that you're not doing it and having someone else do it for you. So these are ways around it. Now, is there such thing as a woman saying Kaddish? The answer is yes, there is such thing. Whether it's done or not is subject to different communities. So if that's something that you feel you want to do, you got to ask. And there are communities that will certainly allow women to say Kaddish as long as they say it quietly. They're not saying it out loud so the men don't hear them.
So it's not the same Kiddush Hashem then?
It is. You're still saying Kaddish and everyone's still answering to you.
No, but if people are snickering, like it's not a Kiddush Hashem.
If people are snickering, then you're right. But if you're saying Kaddish together with all the men, and everyone's answering Yeshua Rabba, you're just as much a part of it as they are.
I have to say that. Yes,
But you'd have to ask, because again, in certain communities, that's not allowed.
Snickers, we'll take care of it. We'll get the Jewish
yesterday I
mafia
said
on it.
Kaddish for my father, and such a form of peacefulness fell over me that I haven't felt in the last few weeks. And so,
So it's okay to say it. Just like I don't know, like and the reason this come up a few times just because I know that certain relatives of mine, no one's saying Kaddish for them. It's not my parents, but their siblings, grandparents, whatever else. Like no one ever did that. So, like I kind of feel like I
go
take
to the kollel,
Yeah.
you give them a check, and you say
Yeah.
this is for Kaddish, and give a list of
Yeah.
names, and give like $15,000 per name,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
So that
and pay it in. I mean, you know who else asked this question? Mayim Bialik came
Yeah.
to Shul
She came
once
to do it.
and
Yeah.
asked if
Yeah.
we would say Kaddish.
Yeah.
yeah.
That was like the impetus for like why we have the little women's section thing for during the week because when they still use the chapel during the week, right? Like there was nowhere for her to come and like even just to daven, right? So, but yeah,
I wouldn't say nowhere. We did set up a thing in the library, but whatever. This is much better.
Yeah,
This is much better.
the way it's all yes, and so that was one of the like we didn't do it because of her, but it was one of the like
Should have charged her.
should have this
Named it after
still
Exactly.
fundraise with her. I mean,
That's right. We should call her.
sure,
seriously.
totally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think
Mayim Bialik,
she's an actress.
an actress, and a Jeopardy host now.
She does Jeopardy.
She's also a
You don't know
neuroscientist.
these-
She's
You don't know
PhD.
about these things.
She's
Do
really
you not have a
Neuroscientist.
TV?
Yeah.
I love listening to her speak.
Me and
It's
you.
Good for you.
phenomenal.
So
I only know this because someone came and told me.
my father passed away a few years ago. When I was living in Rechavi, I paid a Rav and Shari Chesed to say Kaddish for the year. But now what do I do? It's
Yard
just-
site.
Just
Every
Pay
year
for
on the
yard
yard
site.
site, you give a
Just pay
donation to the
someone.
shul, and the Kaddish will be said.
so mitzvahs that we do. How does that work?
If we have in mind that the merit should be for that soul, then they get credit.
Could we have the merit of multiple souls
Yeah,
when we do something?
absolutely.
If we would ever do something.
And
Should
in
we ever do
Yitzchak,
something
you could
right?
See, and we even do Yitzchak, you could see there's like,
Yeah.
you could say it for...
People
you know,
say
you
it
know
for
all your
random
family's
people. Yeah, I
names,
mean,
you could plug in
people had
anybody.
whole lists after the
Oh,
Holocaust. People would sit down with books full of names. I used
Okay.
to, when I was in elementary school, there was a program, I forgot what it was called. But they had a list of all the names they could come up with of all the kids who were killed in the Holocaust. And they gave out cards with one name on each to kids around the country that they should learn and do mitzvahs and whatever in memory of these kids
Yeah.
who have no family.
Beautiful.
I still remember my kid's name was Irma Stride. I think he was 3 years old. I don't know if anybody knows anything about him or ever will or ever has, but That's it. And it's, you can do it. You can do it. It's a powerful thing.
Cool.
Okay.
Where do you go from there?
Up. Always up.
Up.
Always. Okay. All right, so. Okay, so again. So we said that the level, the stature of the neshama in the world of souls will certainly be measured by the actions that they had done during their lifetime. And that's the same measurement that will be used for their reward in the world to come, afterwards. However, the true perfection, that is in store for those who merit it, neither the body nor the soul is able to attain that level, only once they've gotten back together and rejoined forces in the world to come after the resurrection of the dead. So neither one by itself is able to reach the perfection. It's got to be the combination of the two. Okay? Okay. However, in addition to the world of souls being